Greetings all, Shardvixen here, and today is March 13th. So guess what? I'm late again. I'm sorry. It's going to become a normal habit, I think, and then I'll get on time. I'm slowly getting back on schedule because I've been sick, you know, and then now what's been happening is I'm overly tired all the time. I just fall asleep at strange points in time. I've been working on blackness too because I want to get that out as well. So blackness will end up not being so much a vlog as a little informative. It kind of morphed into something else, and the animation's going really well. Also, I think what makes these slow is the animation, because I don't have an idea for the animation until I have an idea for the vlog. And then once I get the vlog idea down, I kind of have to do the animation before I do the vlog. So they're not really live, they're... The vlogs are set exactly on the time that I upload them, usually. When we start doing questions and you start asking me things, then I'll get a little more live. I'm thinking that I might do a live vlog, you know, but I don't know what I would do while I was vlogging. Maybe I could crochet, and then you guys could ask me questions and I could answer them. So that's something we could think about in the future. Since we're not really popular and some of my people are at different time zones, I'm not really sure that I'd get a whole lot of anything. So today's vlog is called TV. I am a child of the TV generation. Given that I was born in 1965 and TV was kind of in its heyday at that period of time, you can imagine that there was a lot of shows that I watched. Now, I made a list of them, and you see them before, you know, when you come in, the title screens have quite a few samples. But I'm going to talk about a couple of those samples because they're memories in my head. So one of them is, in 1969, I had a younger brother who was born, and we won't name him because we just aren't very close. And one of the biggest things that he used to do to drive me crazy would stand in front of the TV set. And that became a war thing. Like, if he was in a mood and he wanted to get me, he would stand in front of the TV set. And then I would scream or kick him off, push him off. And then we'd have a fight with his shirt, and then I would be in trouble. The earliest show that I can remember is Ultraman. Loved Ultraman. I thought, you know, this is the greatest hero in all the world, and he fought the fantastic monsters, you know, like Godzilla and things like that. I don't know that he actually fought Godzilla, but he fought creatures that looked a lot like Godzilla. I have apologized because I'm getting a sleepy bout while I'm sitting here talking to you guys because of cold, and that happens a lot when I'm cold. Some of the shows that I remember, though, watching actually had ended before I was even born. So I was watching reruns at the time that I thought I was watching, you know, the shows as they came about. But I didn't watch them until a later time. Those that I can think of is like the Brady Bunch. I don't remember watching them when I was 5, but I remember watching them when I was a little older. Like, let's say 10, 11 years old, which would have been 1975 and on. And most of these then were done, so I was watching reruns. It's okay. Gunsmoke. I loved Gunsmoke. Remember the Gunsmoke pretty well. Bewitched. Who couldn't love Bewitched? You know, a witch who could do whatever she wanted, but she was kind of dummy and didn't do whatever she wanted. She wanted to be mortal. She wanted to hang out with boring people. Can you imagine? The Partridge Family. I really have to come back to this one because the impact of the Partridge Family is much more intense as a teen than it was when I was younger and it came out. I mean, when I was younger, it was like, oh, how cool, a family that sings together. They're kind of like the people in Sound of Music. That's just too awesome. But that was about it. I didn't really have any other say to that. Here's Lucy. I'm sure I watched Here's Lucy, but the one I always remember was the black and white Lucille Ball and Lucy and Ricky. Those are the shows I remember the most, you know, but I'm sure I watched Here's Lucy just because of the fact I like those. My memory is kind of squishy and only certain things do I remember. Hee Haw. Remembered Hee Haw. Hee Haw wasn't my show, though. My parents would get together at night. You know, my mom would iron and my dad would sit in his recliner with his feet back, his brown recliner. And Hee Haw would come on. And the one thing I always remembered about Hee Haw, besides the opening scene with Roy Clark doing the banjo, was that song. There was a song they used to sing about bad luck. If I had no luck at all, something about bad luck. And usually it's right there at the tip of my head, because if it weren't for bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. And so I always remembered that kind of concept, because I don't really necessarily have bad luck, but I definitely have something that's kind of in between that. And I don't know which is better, that or the have no luck at all. I really have no luck. Beverly Hillbillies, I watched that. Again, I think it was in reruns. Odd Couple, probably my parents, but I watched it. Green Acres, I always remember the frickin' pig in Green Acres. You know, I can't think of his name right now, but that pig that they always catered to was who I remember, of course. That was always funny to me. Hogan Heroes, kind of remembered Hogan Heroes pretty well. I always remembered the bad guy, who wasn't necessarily a bad guy, but I kind of remember him. Sesame Street, of course, which came out actually in 1969, the year my brother was born, so it's kind of odd. I Dream of Jeannie, and I remember fondly Walt Disney's Wonderful World, because that's where you saw those shorts, and you'd have an hour, then part 1 and part 2 of their shows, and it was always so cool to me. And Captain Kangaroo, of course. But like I said, I didn't really remember movies until TV shows until probably we're running into 1975. So I'm 10 years old. It's 1975. Interesting thing that doesn't coincide in my memory is Happy Days actually came out before I was 10, but yet I remember watching a lot of Happy Days. For me, Happy Days became more of a pivotal point with Joni as she was growing up, because I was getting older and she was getting older, so there was that kind of feeling of this is kind of like what my life could be. But then that whole 1960, 1950 style being pulled out makes you kind of go, oh, well, this is a weird, like, connection, because the things that they were bringing her up for were not going to be ideals. You know, if you think about it, if it was 1950 was the idea of Happy Days, in 1955, she was 5 years old. In 1960, she was 10 years old. And in 1965, she was 15. So that right there shows you the change in the concept of that. There were a lot more shows that I remember, but I don't remember if I sat and watched them. I know that my grandfather watched All in the Family. And so I would, period times I could go into my grandparents' bedroom, and he would be watching TV shows. And I was allowed to sit and watch them as long as I was quiet. And All in the Family was one of those. Sanford and Son. A favorite that was in our house, at least for me and my brother, was the $6 Million Man. He was everybody's favorite. Let's see. Good Times, MASH, Jeffersons, the Waltons. Oh, Wonder Woman. I couldn't forget Wonder Woman, because I love her. I didn't like at the time the TV series I loved, but when you look back in retrospect, it's not really Wonder Woman. I mean, as you start reading all the comic books and you look around and you're like, oh, wow, she's not really like what I thought she was. I mean, I remember reading some of the older comic books, and she's very subservient to Steve, what's his name, that she rescued. I want to say Steve Troy, I think. Welcome Back, Kotter. Now, I remember Welcome Back, Kotter, because my aunt, not my nearest aunt, who's 5 years, but I think my other aunt, who's like 13 years older than me, had a crush on John Travolta. And guess who was in Welcome Back, Kotter? And the way he talked always cracked me up in that. She loved that and the disco movie he did. Saturday Night Live. The Rockford Fellows was a big one for me. Barney Miller was another big one that I really enjoyed, that I would, like, take the time to watch. I think of the bunch of these that are on here, The Little House on the Prairie is the one that's most childlike, and that I remember watching as a child. And the Waltons, I think. I watched a lot of the Waltons. The Waltons, because it kind of reflected the family, my external family, my grandparents and stuff. Let's see, what cartoons we got? I don't know that there were any that much that kind of ring my head. Ring-a-ding-a-ling-a-ling in my head. That I wrote down. There was probably some, but I didn't write them down. I mean, in 1965, if we're talking about, you go backwards, in 1965, these, came out, and I remember watching them. Gilligan's Island was a favorite every day after school. It was Gilligan's Island, Planet of, Battle for the Planets, which had G-Force in it, and the Addams Family. Those are the ones that I would like book it home to watch and off of the bus. And if I got in trouble, it was really bad because I wouldn't get to watch them. Wild Wild West, of course, because I had a crush on Artemis, I think his name was. And Lost in Space. Oh yeah, Lost in Space it was always a robot I liked in Lost in Space. But it was sci-fi, so I really enjoyed it. Daniel Boone, My Three Sons, The Flintstones, Flipper, Lassie, Addams Family, which I spoke about. The Munsters, which were like a knockoff of the Addams Family, but they were okay. They just weren't my favorite. My favorite, Martian and Branded. I really always liked My Favorite Martian because I always thought of the little guy that would follow around, talk to him in his head. The two animal ones, I watched them, but, they didn't stand out. And after a while, one gets tired of Lassie, I guess that's the way it is. Tired of Lassie. So, and one of the big space ones I really enjoyed was Space 1990s. And that's kind of, I think, my kickoff into TV, wanting to do the sci-fi. But at the time, there wasn't a whole lot of sci-fi on it. And what was probably the best thing about cable is that it allowed you to find those things that you enjoyed. Now, granted, when you do cable now, you get a lot of what I call trash channels that are just like sucking up time, and there's no reason for them to be on there. So as we move in from going to be 10 to 15, there's a much bigger impact. Of course, I was watching the Partridge Family, and the reason I was watching reruns of the Partridge Family, of course, was for David Cassidy. He was everybody's heartthrob, and at that time, I hadn't really learned to stand up for myself and say, you know what, I don't really like this particular person, I really enjoy this person. But one of the people I really enjoyed, and we'll talk about him in the movies section of this, which I think is coming up in a couple of weeks, is I always loved Vincent Price. He would have been, I was always had this dream that he was going to be the person that I was going to grow up to marry, or, somebody like him, because his voice, it was always the voice for me. A person's voice will change, will make me think about, whether I want to stand closer to him or stand further away. Anyway, The Love Boat, Three's Company, I think I read all these. Facts of Life, Taxi, WRKP in Cincinnati, Too Close for Comfort, Laverne and Shirley. Oh my God, I loved Laverne and Shirley. In fact, I watched Happy Days, and I remember, coming into puberty, Laverne and Shirley, it was like I had this friend, and we were really, really close, and it was kind of like a Laverne and Shirley thing. And then from them was Mork and Mindy, too. Mork and Mindy was like, I love Mork and Mindy. And I love Mork and Mindy because it was fresh, how you got to watch his character develop, and they gave him some background history, and everybody was like, wow, excited about that. Charlie's Angels, The Muppet Show, and like I said, The Battle of the Planets, which was G-Force. That occupied my time for a very long time. And then first MTV video I saw was Video Killed the Radio Star. And that kind of changed it for me. I was watching a lot more MTV. I was getting stoned a lot. I was running around a lot. I was hanging out with boys a lot. And at that time, the music had to reflect it. So MTV and American Bandstand, and that one, something gold, where everybody, all the dancers dressed up in gold. I can't remember it now, but I knew about it when I did my music thing, songs, life songs. All right, so and then I graduated from high school in 1983, and TV became not as important. I mean, I still loved watching TV, but I didn't have a TV set, and being able to get out to watch TV really was a problem. And then I got really busy in my life, and I started playing a lot more video games. So TV kind of gave way to video games and movies, because I could buy movies now really cheap at the time, probably even, well, now, but then too, like, $5 a movie, and then I'd have the movie forever and I could watch it. So I created a pretty good collection of movies before we moved, and it's not really now the time to start doing movies. Now it's going back and watching TV, but you're not watching actual TV channels. You're watching things like Netflix and YouTube and stuff like that. And that's pretty cool, but again, it's kind of hard to stay abreast of what's going on. So my favorite shows now, really quick, are The Walking Dead, off and on. I'll talk about them with anybody who wants to talk about them. I don't really have much of a stance on that aspect. Things like Person of Interest, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Battlestar Galactica, Heroes, all the CW's got the Green Arrow, Legends of DC. I mean, anything that's comic book and books I read. The Expanse. I really like The Expanse. It's based on a book, The Leviathan, in space. And that's a really good book, and the TV show seems to be turning out really well, too. Anyway, so any other questions you have on that aspect, and I'll add more as I think about them, but I'm kind of cold and sleepy now, so I'll catch you all on the flip side. Peace. I'm out of here.